This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. I bet it's better than the one I'm going to have this afternoon. We'll get into that later. The phone number, should you wish to be on the program, 877-973-7425. As always, if you text ARMY to 33777, I'm going to text you back a link. And if you'll put in your contact information, you don't need phone number unless you want to give it to me, but email, zip code, so that as we are going around the country doing live events, we'll be able to email you and drop you an events link so you can say you want to come hang out with us, because we're going to start doing that more and more. Glad to have you with me today. We've got to begin, of course, with the interview. Kamala Harris and J.D. Vance, not J.D. Vance, Tim Walz. They're going to do a sit-down interview with Dana Bash tomorrow in Georgia for CNN. It will be pre-recorded. Now, listen, let me play Scott Jennings first from CNN to set the stage here.
Is the line now going to be, well, why isn't she doing it by herself?
Yeah, I do think people are going to bring that up. Like, I have great confidence in Dana and CNN to do this. I think it's incredibly weak sauce to show up with your running mate. The fact that they don't have enough confidence in her to let her sit herself, the actual top of the ticket, and do a single interview. In fact, I think the hand-wringing and the gyrations over this over the last month show a troubling lack of confidence in her political ability, which also makes you wonder as a voter, well, what kind of president would you be if this kind of a small-time decision, can we do an interview or not, what does that look like for your decision-making process, so on? So, I think Republicans are going to think it's pretty weak to show up with effectively someone to take up half the time.
Listen, I get the point. Scott does a better job on CNN than I ever did. I enjoy him on CNN. I have fun watching him. I was not a good partisan attack dog on CNN, and I get his point. Yeah, it's going to look weak to some people. I do think it was relevant. I said so myself on CNN last night that it has been relevant that she, for 40 days, has refused to sit down with the press. Joe Biden has made himself more accessible to the press than Kamala Harris in the last 40 days. But I'm not going to attack Kamala Harris for having Tim Walz with her at this CNN interview tomorrow, because this campaign is 40 days old. Tim Walz has been on the campaign less time than that, and Kamala Harris has run away from every position she held just 4 years ago. Tim Walz needs to be in the room with Kamala Harris tomorrow to figure out what he believes. I mean, she's changed her mind on everything. Just yesterday, the Kamala Harris campaign announced that Kamala Harris no longer believes in EV mandates. Kamala Harris, for the last 4 years, including last week, supported EV mandates. And now staff, anonymous staff, say she doesn't believe that anymore. How is Tim Walz to know unless he's in the room with Kamala Harris? I'm not going to attack Dana Bash and CNN for doing a pre-recorded interview either. They are on the campaign trail. Walz and Harris are on the campaign trail in Georgia. They're trying to make time. CNN, of course, is going to be in a location that makes it more difficult to stage a live conversation. And I'm sure it'll be way more polished than a live interview for better or worse. Dana Bash, I trust to do a good job and to ask tough questions. We'll see from the interview. She was willing to ask Joe Biden such tough questions at the CNN debate that pretty much all of you thought they would go easy on Joe Biden, and it wound up destroying his campaign. Let's see before we make that judgment. I have some suggestions, however. I said this on CNN last night. I won't replay the audio. I was on with Erin Burnett. She was asking me about what I took from this interview with CNN. And I said, well, if you go back and you just play footage of Kamala Harris from CNN, particularly with Erin Burnett, Kamala Harris came out insisting on ending fossil fuels, wanted a ban on all fracking, wanted to use the government to force people into electric vehicles, wanted to force the government coercion upon you to get you to give up red meat, told Don Lemon we should have a conversation in America about prison inmates being able to vote in elections, told Jake Tapper we should eliminate private health care insurance, told Dana Bash we should have government taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens. That's just on CNN. That's just on CNN. That's not other networks. That's just the things she has said on CNN. And so I think it would behoove Dana Bash tomorrow to ask Kamala Harris a presuppositional question. Are you a part of the Biden-Harris administration? Because, the Politico and several other media outlets are saying J.D. Vance and the Republicans are trying to tie Kamala Harris to Joe Biden. Pretty sure that hyphen in the Biden-Harris administration website, that would be whitehouse.gov, ties Kamala Harris to Joe Biden. So if she says she's not, well, then the next question, of course, is, well, then why have you said nothing about that hyphenated Biden-Harris administration website? If she says yes, then the question's got to be, so your staff yesterday said you oppose EV mandates, except for the last 3.5 years, you've pushed EV mandates as part of the Biden-Harris administration. When did you change your mind and why? In 2020, you said the government should be used to curb a demand for red meat. Do you still believe the government should pressure people not to eat red meat? If so, or if not, why? In 2020, you opposed building a wall. You actually called it a Donald Trump medieval vanity project.
And folks, on the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them.
Medieval vanity project. That would be the wall. That's what you called it. Wouldn't stop it. Your staff now says that you support building a medieval vanity project. Which is it? And why did you change your mind if you now want to support a wall? The why is the most important part. Which of these policies? She wanted a ban on fracking. She wanted EV mandates. She wanted an end to fossil fuels. She wanted a federal ban on plastic straws. A federal coercion to get you to stop eating red meat. Health care for illegal aliens at taxpayer funds. No border wall. She wanted prisoners to be able to vote while in prison. What has she changed on? And if she's changed on those things, why has she suddenly changed them? Now, this is very important because Jonathan Karl, on ABC, he may say, well, of course she's no longer opposed to ending or no longer supports ending private healthcare insurance. Of course, everybody knows she no longer supports that. No, as Tom Cotton pointed out, Kamala Harris has never said otherwise. The last thing Kamala Harris said about insurance was she wants to get rid of private insurance. So, Jonathan Karl, did Kamala Harris privately tell you this on background and you're not telling us you spoke to her? Or are you just parroting what aides said on a Friday afternoon on social media? Because Kamala Harris has not said anything about it. I think it would behoove Dana Bash to ask Kamala Harris about those reversals of policy from 4 years ago. Why are you now reversing yourself on EV mandates, a policy the Biden administration itself is currently pushing? And then also, why do you disagree with your own administration? And what are you doing about that disagreement? Ron Fournier used to be the head of the Associated Press. He's progressive. We disagree on politics. I get along with him fine. But I had a conversation with him once. And he said he's always found it more fascinating, the internal conversations. It's who cares what the Republicans say about the Democrats? Who cares what the Democrats say about the Republicans? It's the Democrats on Democrats and Republicans on Republicans and those criticisms that are the things to pay attention to. Kamala Harris at her speech last Thursday. It'll be a week ago from tomorrow when she gives her CNN interview. Kamala Harris threaded a needle to ensure that everything she said on stage would not pick fights within the Democratic Party. She wanted a unified convention. It won't be news that Kamala Harris disagrees with Donald Trump. It will be news if Kamala Harris disagrees with Joe Biden, disagrees with the progressives, or disagrees with the moderates in the Democratic Party. That will be real news. Cable news network. I personally think there should be some probative value to questions about where Kamala Harris might disagree with her base. One of those is electric vehicles, a border wall, fracking. Now, we know environmentalists are going to give her a pass in a way pro-lifers won't give Donald Trump. Pro-lifers have been burned too many times to give anybody a pass. The environmentalists know Kamala Harris is one of them for sure. But there's some probative value to asking those sorts of questions. And I assume Dana Bash will do it. I've got high regard for her, like her very much, think she's a good journalist, don't always agree with her. Like, for example, she said Kamala Harris was heavy on policy in her speech last week, and I disagreed publicly. I told her as well, I think you're saying policy when you mean platitude. I think the most probative question to ask Kamala Harris in an interview tomorrow is what parts of the Biden-Harris administration does she disagree with? What policies does the Harris of the Biden-Harris administration disagree with? I think we deserve the answers to that. She's going to be campaigning with Joe Biden on Labor Day. What does she disagree with? Is it the EV mandate? Is that it? What about the policies that provoked inflation? She was the tie-breaking vote. Does she regret that? Does she now recognize Larry Summers and others were right about provoking inflation? Does she acknowledge that the Biden-Harris administration policies provoked inflation? I'm interested to see what questions are asked. Because honestly, I think the media, the journalists are going to be more in the spotlight here. Dana Bash, with the weight of that on her, than Kamala Harris, because I do believe the press corps has largely given Kamala Harris a pass for the last 40 days, saying it's a Republican talking point that she hasn't done any interviews. No, it's not a Republican talking point. It's a fact she hasn't done any interviews in the last 40 days. The press used to demand access all the time. Listen, I maintained that if Donald Trump is able to pull it off and get elected president, he should move the White House Brady press room over to the old or the new executive office building. He should get it out of the White House. The press is clearly incurious, and they've clearly picked a side. I am very curious as to the questions that will be asked tomorrow to Walz and Harris. I'm not going to fault them for doing a pre-recorded interview. They're on a campaign schedule. I know how technically difficult these things are to put off, particularly when you're barnstorming states. I'm not going to fault them for that. And I'm not going to fault Tim Walz for being in the room with Kamala Harris. 3 weeks ago, Kamala Harris supported a ban on fracking, supported mandatory transition to electric vehicles, supported an end to fossil fuels, supported government coercion to reduce red meat consumption, supported a federal ban on plastic straws, supported a federal ban on private health insurance, supported a conversation on letting those currently incarcerated vote, supported taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens, opposed a border wall. Just 3 weeks ago, those were Kamala Harris's positions. If Tim Walz is not in the room with her when she's talking tomorrow, he's going to have no idea what this campaign believes. He needs to be in the room. I'm not going to attack him for that. I'm going to attack Kamala Harris for being the Harris in the Biden-Harris administration and pretending that she's not culpable for the last 4 years.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Let me just nip something in the bud here. A lot of people email. I've gotten a lot of emails since the start of the show. Well, if it's pre-recorded, can't they just edit the interview to make it look good? Yeah, they can. You won't know if they do. Except we live in a day and age where every company has saboteurs who want to discredit them, including CNN. And you know and I know that somebody will be in the video vault leaking the information to social media if they do the edit. Look, I know how many conservatives worked in the building at CNN because I worked there, and they would whisper to me in the hallway. There were progressives who worked at Fox who leaked stuff about Fox. So I don't know that they could keep it secret if they did, but could they? Yeah, they could. If you believe that they edited it, I mean, if I tell you it's not going to be, you're not going to believe me. So why waste my time dealing with the issue? You just watch the interview and judge for yourself whether you think it was edited or not. You'll be able to see the cuts. I mean, just see it with your own eyes. No reason to waste more time on that than that. Now, I need to just share with you a proud dad moment. You know, those of you who are parents, you always wonder, did you raise your kids well or not, or are your kids well behaved? So my college student, she pulled into the parking lot of the local Publix grocery store last night, and I was pulling out. I saw her. She did not see me. So I decided I would whip around, and I would actually try to pretend to run her over and scare her. But she never walked across the street to get into the Publix. Where'd she go? So I had to turn up the lane that she was walking down, and there she was helping an elderly lady put groceries in the back of her car. And I just thought, you know what? That's a good kid. Today's my daughter's 19th birthday. How am I that old? But good for my kid for helping an elderly lady with her groceries. Made me feel good as a parent. Now, I got to move on to other things. You know, we're waiting for word from the Federal Reserve on what they're going to do with interest rates. We'll find out in September. Banks are starting to have troubles. Small banks are having some real troubles. It seems Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash, you can get their free report about the secret war on cash. All you got to do is call or text 800-289-2646. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. You can save your retirement and finances. The all-out war on cash, it includes digital forms of currency. All you got to do is go to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. If you text them, text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Just text Eric to 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or call or text my name to 800-289-2646. Get Swiss America's report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Boy, I have the ability to generate hate mail from some of you. Let me spend a moment more on my thinking here. So I got a lot of emails after the last segment of, don't I think CNN's going to edit the interview to make Kamala Harris look good? Isn't that why they're not doing it live? I don't actually think that, but if you're asking me the question like that, you already believe it's so, and nothing I can say is going to change your mind, except you can't put lipstick on a pig and call it beautiful. And you're not going to be able to edit a Kamala Harris word salad without the editing being super obvious, and it's not going to make her look better. So I don't know why they would try, but if they try, there's nothing you or I can do to stop it. So there's no reason for me to be exercised and upset about it. The immediate conspiratorial thinking these days on both sides of the aisle that, well, they're doing it because they're trying to get it edited or something. Life is too short for me to waste my time thinking like that, and I can't disabuse you or dissuade you from thinking like that. But you know what? What I can tell you is it doesn't matter, because there's not a darn thing you can do about it. So watch the interview, take from it what you want, and if you don't want to watch it, that's fine too. I don't really care. But there's nothing I could do to stop them and demand that they do a live interview. I don't believe they're going to edit it, because even if they edited it, you're not going to be able to put lipstick on this pig and call it beautiful. And even if they do edit it, I mean, so what? Is it going to be to make her look better? Someone from CNN is going to leak it, because there are angry millennials in every department of every business these days, and they leak stuff like that just because they want to undermine their institution. So if it's edited, we'll have the raw footage leaked to us. So I'm not really worried about it. You shouldn't be either. A lot of people want to spend their time worrying about things they cannot control these days. We got other stuff we got to talk about, including the Kamala Harris apology tour. Y'all, I've been thinking a lot about this. I think Kamala Harris, instead of running for president, should be running an apology tour. And I think that the Trump campaign should be demanding an apology. She keeps trying to throw out new ideas, and they're falling flat everywhere. And the actual damage that she and Joe Biden have done to the economy is something they should be held accountable for. I want to play you this exchange on CNBC because, you know, Joe Kernan is pretty financially conservative, but Becky Quick is not, and neither of them have room for Kamala Harris's economic spokesman on TV just making stuff up.
Unrealized gains, taxing unrealized gains just doesn't seem fair in any sense of the word. In the very best sense, if you are taxing unrealized gains, all you're doing is pulling forward the taxes that would be paid later when someone actually sells the stock.
I think that this reaction to unrealized gains is a little funny, given that I bet that the majority of people watching right now are already paying a tax on unrealized gains. It's called a property tax. When the value of your home goes up,
it's a use tax.
When the value of your home goes up, you pay higher taxes, even if you don't sell your home.
Your value of your home never moves the way a stock moves, the way something else moves.
That's always the go-to answer.
It's also, property tax is a use tax. You're paying for the schools, you're paying for emergency services. Those are things that make absolute sense.
And sure, and all the revenue that comes in from these unrealized gains taxes and the other taxes in the Harris plan are going to go to creating what she calls more opportunity. It's to make sure that every newborn born in this country gets $6,000.
Using the services.
Well, look, you're arguing that this is some sort of foreign concept that's completely unknown in the U.S. tax code.
It's probably unconstitutional. It's probably, and it was never in anyone's intent to tax.
It's not an income tax.
Property is real property. Real property taxation goes to, as Becky Quick points out, a use tax. The federal government doesn't tax real property. Your state and local government tax real property, and it funds the local fire department and the local trash collection and the local school. It's the fact that the Harris people don't even want to acknowledge it is part of the problem here. They've never wanted to acknowledge a single problem. How is it playing out? How is it playing out for Americans, this Biden-Harris administration economy? This is Brianna Keeler on CNN.
A just-released housing index reveals just how rough the market is, especially for first-time home buyers. It showed home prices for the nation's top 20 metro areas rose 5.4% from June of last year to June of this year, a record jump for that month. And renters, not just home buyers, are feeling a serious squeeze, especially in New York. Moody's found New Yorkers dedicated a whopping 58% of their income toward rent compared to 27% nationwide.
That's the Biden-Harris economy. The Wall Street Journal has a headline today. It's their top story today. The American dream feels out of reach for most. A Wall Street Journal poll shows people want a home, a family, and a comfortable retirement, but say those goals are tough to achieve even with hard work. And they are in the Biden-Harris economy. Again, they were told before their COVID stimulus package by progressive economists, you would spark inflation for the first time in this country since the 1970s. They mocked the economists, including Larry Summers. They did it. Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote for it, and we got the inflation the progressive economists warned. And how's it playing out? This is a voter in Virginia.
Groceries that used to cost me $200 a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, I'm spending $500 at the grocery store right now. That's going to be my biggest deciding factor. Is give me your answers. What are your solutions? Because I don't want promises and broken promises.
Don't want promises. Don't want broken promises. Here's another one.
You know, Greg, we got this big graph of inflation in the country compared under Biden and Harris and then Trump and Pence. So I guess the big question is, what was life for you under Donald Trump compared to now?
A whole different ballgame. Like I said, I mean, the intention was always to work because I wanted to, just work 20, 30 hours a week, stay busy, stay active, have a couple extra bucks in my pocket. Now it's basically just to survive. Our expenses, our household expenses over the last 4 years have increased anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month. And that's as a result of everything I just stated. Groceries, car insurance has gone up $200 to $300 a month in the last 4 years. And it's not just because we live in Florida. You can check. They tell you the same thing. It's inflation. Any given month, any given week, you know, if we have stuff going on, the grocery bills are outrageous.
That's a guy in Florida. Here's a 74-year-old intern.
A paid internship at 74 years old is the plot of a Hollywood movie, but the stark reality for Barry, who is their star intern here at Career Source Ballard, helping others find employment.
When you tell your friends you're an intern, what do they say?
Are you crazy? You know, you're supposed to be retired. And I have 3 different retirements, and it's not enough. I can't afford to eat. Can't afford to pay my utilities. You know, I'm barely making my condo payment.
Man is 74 years old, has 3 retirements, and still had to go back to work. Here's a voter in Virginia.
We found Ricky Gaines waiting for his takeout order.
What do you look for when you're looking for a leader or somebody to vote for?
Someone that's fair, someone that's consistent.
This Army veteran says he's now worried about safety here at home.
I think crime, you know, that kind of keeps me up at night. The drugs, the crime, we've got to police that up.
That's a voter in Virginia. You've heard people in Florida, people across the country. And here's Christina Romans on MSNBC talking about the state of the economy.
Anticipated that rates will be cut in September, but of course we don't exactly know how much or precisely when. You mentioned mortgage rates falling. Let's talk about housing, which for so many Americans, particularly Americans just starting off trying to buy their first house, it's become impossible because it's so expensive and because there's simply not enough stock. Vice President Harris has put forth a new housing plan. Give us your analysis.
So the housing market has really been where the bulk of those rate increases has just frozen it. Also, you just don't have enough supply. So young people, first-time home buyers, really just don't have a leg in here. In most zip codes, the typical earner can't afford the typically priced home. That's a real problem. You've heard from the Biden administration or from the Kamala Harris campaign what she would like to do: incentivize building more homes, you know, moderately priced homes, also incentivizing people to help pay for them. I think when mortgage rates start to decline, we'll get a better sense of how things are going to thaw a little bit here. We've already seen mortgage refinancing improving among people who bought homes in the last couple of years as they're trying to refinance. But will there be a better chance to get into this housing market? Record high home prices yesterday, the Case-Shiller number. I mean, some neighborhoods, especially around here, in Connecticut, on the West Coast, around Chicago, I mean, just unattainable home prices. That's
unobtainable home prices. 12 years ago, from the Wall Street Journal, when researchers at Public Religion Research Institute asked 2,501 people if the American dream still holds true, more than half said it did. When the Wall Street Journal asked the same question in July, the number dropped to about a third of respondents. By many measures, economists say people are right to feel their shot at success has diminished. Key aspects of the American dream seem out of reach in a way that they were not in past generations, says Emerson Sprick, an economist of the D.C. think tank Bipartisan Policy Center. Sprick points to the continued decline of private sector pensions leading to their near disappearance, the surge in the cost of home ownership as two of the biggest economic changes over the past number of decades. It's not just that. The Biden-Harris administration sparked massive inflation, driving up the cost of borrowing, driving up the cost for home ownership. People who are able to get in at very low rates locked in refinancing, and there are people who are stuck in their houses now. I dare say my wife and I are kind of stuck in our house right now. We have a ridiculously low interest rate on our home. We've had a number of offers to buy our house at a very inflated price from what I even think it's worth. There's nowhere for us to move. Americans across the country are in this situation. The Biden administration added a bunch of regulations on land usage and water usage and costs for making lumber and for shingles on houses and electrical requirements and efficiency requirements. Even on your HVAC system, they've driven up the costs of basic home ownership. The regulations of the Biden administration, the inflation caused by the Biden administration. Instead of running for president, Kamala Harris should be running around the country telling people she's sorry for what they did. This is the Biden-Harris administration. It's not the Biden administration. She is in charge, just like Joe Biden. They did this. They were warned by economists what their spending package would do. Exactly what those economists warned came about. You can say it's a global problem. It's a global problem. You know what? I'm not a citizen of the United Kingdom of Europe or China. I'm a citizen of the United States. And what I know is that Democratic progressive economists told the Biden administration that if you do this COVID stimulus plan, you will get inflation like we haven't seen since the 1970s. We got exactly that. And then they said it was transient. It's transient. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. 3.5 years later, it's finally starting to go down. It's still going up just at a slower rate. They're like, see, we told you it was temporary. Where is my apology from Kamala Harris? In fact, the Trump team, if they were smart, they'd be running around the country demanding she apologize. She's running ads about how she wants to make homeownership affordable. She should run ads acknowledging it's her policies from the Biden-Harris administration that made homeownership unaffordable. We got crime problems in this country, gang problems. We've got drug problems. We've got a fentanyl crisis. We've got a border problem. All of these happened on her watch. It is inexcusable to me that the Trump campaign can't stay on this message. The media absolutely is doing everything they can to cover for Kamala Harris, including the fact that they're trying to claim that somehow she is not tied to the Biden administration. She can be her own person. No, she cannot be when the website says Biden-Harris administration. And again, anyone who says that should be bludgeoned metaphorically by the Trump campaign for carrying water for Kamala Harris. It is not true. She needs to own the current record. There's a reason in 188 years only one person who is vice president of the United States got elected to the presidency. The odds should be against Kamala Harris, even with the media on her side. And the Trump campaign needs to pick a message and stay on message and hammer that point, and Kamala Harris must be held to account for wrecking the economy. Now, I want to wreck the bad odors in your house and get rid of them with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them by going to EdenPureDeals.com today. Put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. You'll save $200. Get them for less than $200. wipe out odors. They generate ozone that grabs hold of odor ions. Yes, odors are ions that your nose detects. The ozone grabs hold of the ion and wipes out the ion, so it cannot generate the odor. And because ozone is a gas, it flows into the cracks and crevices and under the couch and into the fabric where the odors hide and wipes them out. You can get 3 of them and save $200. Get one for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your RV, your travel bag, wherever you need it. You can hold it in the palm of your hand. It's so small. Plug it into the wall. Plug it in with a USB cord. I've plugged mine into my laptop before, and it works. EdenPureDeals.com. Eden, like the Garden of Eden, pure as the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3, no space. Just write out the number, Eric, and then the number, not the word 3. ERICK, the number 3, no space, EdenPureDeals.com. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. They are in Noonan, Georgia, and they help businesses across the United States. They have been making their own lending decisions since the 90s. The Frost family's still in charge. You're not going to have to worry about your lender changing every 5 months like you will at some banks. First Liberty Building and Loan can help you, your business. If you're buying a building, buying a franchise, need a heavy equipment loan, reach out to them. FirstLibertyGA.com. Any business nationwide, FirstLibertyGA.com. Okay, this is my personal segment of the day, y'all. My humiliation. Now I know what it's like for a dog who has to wear the cone of shame. I am 49 years old, a fact that bothers me greatly because I certainly don't feel like I'm almost 50. And this afternoon at 3:15, for the first time in my life, I have to get braces, y'all. Yes, I have to. Your host, after years of making fun of others being metal mouths, has to become one. So, on air several months ago, I had to step out of the middle of the show and have emergency surgery to extract a tooth that had an infection. Something about the infection is the blood-brain barrier, I think it's called. And it was an ordeal. Well, I've been having headaches ever since. And it turns out that my teeth are shifting around in my mouth, and the dentist sent me to the orthodontist, and Invisalign, which I had for a while. It's not an option with that tooth gone the way it is. And so, yes, this afternoon, I have to have braces. Hopefully ones that won't be visible on television or radio. They promise me it will not affect my voice. The Invisalign, I had to stop wearing them on radio because I said a bad word on radio that I didn't mean to say, but my tongue got stuck under the plastic, and I was in the middle of speaking and uttered a word that was not meant to be said. It was a blending of the two words and came across as a not good word. And thankfully my boss knew immediately what had happened and laughed in my face about it. I was horrified. Never could wear them on her, but that's also part of the problem too, is that you got to wear the Invisalign more. But now with that missing tooth back, it's a problem. And after multiple consults of multiple people, they've all told me the same thing. So my humiliation and shame this afternoon, I have to be a middle-aged man with braces, which the doctor told me, don't worry about it. He and I are the same age, and he just got out of his last year. So at least there's that. When we come back, we got to talk about what hasn't happened in 188 years in this country.